Welcome to Hip Hop Movie Club, where three old heads put their old heads together to vibe on some of the most memorable or forgettable hip hop themed movies of all time. And here's HHMC with your HHMCs, Boogie, JB, and Dino Wright. Season 2, Episode 5, CB4. Directed by Tamara Davis, written by Chris Rock, Nelson George, and Robert Locash, and produced by Nelson George. Starring Chris Rock, Alan Payne, Deezer D, Charlie Murphy, Candy Alexander, Phil Hartman, and Chris Elliott. In this episode, we'll answer the question, can you fake it till you make it as a gangster rapper?
CB4 is a 1993 comedy starring Chris Rock, Alan Payne, and Deezer D, who form a gangster rap trio named after the prison block where the group was allegedly formed. Chris Rock's character, Albert Brown, assumes the identity and persona of Gusto, an intimidating club owner and kingpin who had ties to the hip-hop industry. The movie parodies NWA and other aspects of gangster rap, which rose to prominence in the late 1980s and early 1990s. So, Boogie, tell us a little bit about the movie. What were some of the key things that you liked about CB4?
Yeah, CB4, I think it was absolutely hilarious. And I just love off-the-wall comedy and parodies and, you know, the slapstick stuff, just like you, JB. So yeah. I laughed through the whole movie because it was just so over the top with some of the scenes and some of the references that they played out in it. And it was really cool, too, about it is that it played it was a mockumentary. So, and I love documentaries. So it was like a parody of a documentary on a fictional group that was parodying an actual group. So there was several layers to it. So, you know, you just had to look at the nuances and just appreciate the hilarious scenes that played out. And the question that was posed by Dino Wright, faking it as a gangster rapper, I mean, that's pretty serious. And you can end up, you know, with some serious bodily harm at the bare minimum. But they made light of it. And, you know, I think it played out really well.
Yeah, I agree. I had never seen it before, so I didn't know what to expect, but I really enjoyed it. The opening credits really brought me right into it. It was like a hip hop museum set to the show by Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh, and I just love that song. That was like one of the original classics of hip hop. There's a lot of comedies, parodies, like you said. They have a guy that's a performer named Wacky D. He looks like an MC Hammer knockoff, which was funny.
Wacky D.
The names that the guys assume as part of this fake trio: MC Gusto, because he took on that persona; Stabmaster, Arson, and Dead Mike. I was just cracking up. They flash those names on the screen, and that's pretty funny. Dino Wright, what were some of the highlights for you?
Oh man, there's so many. First of all, Chris Elliott is a comic genius. He was great. It was fun to see Shirley Hemphill in this movie. Three of us are big What's Happening fans, and of course she was Shirley in that. And that was fun to see. There were a lot of ties to other movies. You know, this is a comedy that plays off of a lot of gangster rap themes and other other movies with gangster rap themes in them. So like Alan Payne was also in New Jack City before this. And even LaWanda Page is in this movie also.
Yes, the LaWanda Page effect.
I feel like that's like every movie she's in.
I'm coining it, the LaWanda Page effect.
Done. Yeah, we should keep a tally of who is in the most of these movies that we.
I feel like we've talked about LaWanda Page like every time.
She's got the comedic chops. That's why she's always in these comedies.
Yeah, it's like a rite of passage. If you want to make a classic comedy about some West Coast hip hop themed or whatever, you must have LaWanda Page at least have it be in that movie for about 5 minutes at bare minimum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like your path to success.
Seriously, he's a gem.
I have a lot of things I like, but some of those were the big ones. It was cool to see Candy Alexander and Phil Hartman in this. You know, they were in News Radio after this. I think it was after this.
I think
or
so.
at the same time, and so that's fun. And Tommy Davidson has a cameo, uncredited cameo in this.
Yeah.
It's Weird Warren.
Weird.
Weird.
Yeah, he hosted a video show. It was wacky.
So there's a lot of little references to a lot of things. We'll get into that, but really fun. This is a really fun movie. It had a very serious sort of undertone that they were faking.
Right.
I mean, to piggyback off what Boogie was saying, I like that it was a documentary. Chris Elliott was hilarious, like you said, Donna, right? He's ultra nerdy, fanboy type guy. He's like the antithesis of gangster, right? So he's there's a funny scene when Chris Rock's character was he comes back out to his Jeep and there's a ticket for a parking ticket. And he comes out as Chris Elliott's character is like, you see this? He is throwing out a state issued ticket. And now he's playing a new jam. And then later on, he's like, well, this is my first drive-by.
Yeah.
Shot out by the real gusto. Oh, man. That was great. That was great.
That was really funny.
There's also the fake interviews in the beginning where they have the real hip-hop artists, Ice-T, Ice Cube, Halle Berry, Flavor Flav, a very young and svelte Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq is in there.
Young Shaq.
Like, wow. Shaq was only like, I'm thinking he was like 23, 24 at that time.
Yeah, that's when he was playing on the Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Had he put out his album by then?
I don't know.
I have to check the dates on it.
I had that Shaq cassette. Shaq Fu. He got to start with the Fu Schnickens and then he had his own little cassette there. Can we rock? What's up, Doc? Oh man. That was great stuff. But yeah, it's funny that the fake interviews were believable. They were like talking about this hardcore rap, like, oh, we thought we were hardcore, but wait till these CB4 guys, man, they put us to shame. It was funny.
Ice-T gave the ultimate OG cosign.
He did. That's right.
He was wearing the jacket for them and everything. I'm like, wow, look at that. That was pretty funny. But you know the one thing that stuck out though when they got the Flavor Flav and he was like, I don't believe these guys. He was calling them out early.
Yeah, right. He did.
And you figure, him being from, primarily, repping P on the East Coast, he was just like, yeah, I don't believe it.
Yeah, right.
I took an East Coast rapper to figure it out.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was good. There's funny dialogue too. It's funny. The dialogue, there was one piece of dialogue where Gusto, or the Chris Rock's Gusto, was talking about George Jefferson being a sellout. And they had a big debate about that. And that was almost like Tarantino-like to me, like how there's all this dialogue that's kind of joking, but there's like a deep meaning to it. It's like, man, George Jefferson was a sellout. And like he was like bound down to the white man. They're like, no, he only listened to the white man if there was money involved. And I was just like cracking up at the whole little skit there.
Yeah, it was very Tarantino.
That was definitely very Tarantino.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And speaking of this, in the car, that I love that King of Rock skit where they were playing out the different parts of Run DMC.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it was hilarious because they were hitting the notes right on cue. Someone was playing Run, someone was DMC, someone was Jam Master Jay. And then the cassette tape slows down and speeds up. And they didn't miss a beat. And they're like, man, you got to fix your tape or your tape deck.
That was great.
That was great.
I was cracking up when it sped up.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Oh, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's like so many like funny scenes. Like I was cracking up too at the part with, Chris Ellie, he's doing his documentary and he's so oblivious to what's going on. And he's standing outside of the Watts Towers in the background. He's got the camera down and the guys jack the camera and take off with it. He's like, hey, come back.
That was really funny.
Dude, like you don't just leave that there. How about Trust Us?
Trust us.
Shady record producer. Yeah.
Industry rule number 4080.
Yeah, that's right. People are shady.
Now I can really put a face to that lyric.
Yeah,
It's
that's exactly what it was, man. Trust Us was the face to that line.
Yeah.
he was shady. Like even like the questions that he was posing to them before he even signed them.
Yeah.
Did any of you take the notes down when he was asked? I forgot.
Oh yeah. I have it down. That was hilarious. He's like, "Do you cuss? Do you defile women? Defile women? Do you grab your genitals? Do you have no respect for anyone?" And they're like, "Not at all. Not at all. Oh hell no." All right, you're signed.
Oh man, I was cracking up. I was like, dude.
And then they want to go with the name CB4. It's like, what about we go with like ice pick or ice coffee? Like ice is really, really the thing right now.
So disingenuous.
Oh, it was great.
It's like in the back of his head, he knew that whole CB4 idea was a bad idea, but he just like, you know what? I'm going to push this because they can make some money for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they had the flashback scene where CB4, Chris Rock had always wanted to be a rapper, and I think it was the old Bohemians, and then the Bagheads. They were wearing like the saran wrap or shower caps on their head. That were the Bagheads, or the overweight lovers.
Overweight lovers.
That was really well done.
That was funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is that a lot of rap acts, they transition like that too, because even NWA actually, they were a world class wrecking crew before they became NWA. Like there was something behind that. They reinvent themselves before they get signed, and when they get signed, they kind of go through a bit of a transition direction that the record label wants to push them in to make that money.
Yeah, it happens in a lot of artists have to go through this kind of commercially influenced change. Right. I mean, granted, world class wrecking crew wasn't the Mad Bohemians or the Bagheads or the overweight lovers, but it's like they parodied. They even like when they were parodying NWA, they kind of parodied on that aspect of it as well. Yeah. So good. So good. Oh, and speaking of gusto, man, the real gusto, played by my man, the late Charlie Murphy, man, brother to Eddie Murphy. Yeah. He's anything I see him in, he makes me laugh because he plays that tough guy thing so funny, but the dude is hilarious. He's a comedic genius. Like he was hilarious. So like he's trying to be all tough and he's like intimidating, but dude he's funny. He's just hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, he should get his due as someone who is truly really talented. Yeah. Just happened to have a superstar brother. Yeah, right. I mean, later on in the Dave Chappelle stuff. Yeah. Murphy's just terrific. Oh, I love those skits. I love those Chappelle skits with him in it, man. I can watch those like over and over. To be telling the stories about him interacting with Rick James and that's so good. All these other stories. Like, dude, is hilarious. And he says it with such a straight face that in the inside he's probably cracking up, but he's telling it with a straight face. Meanwhile, we're all falling on the floor laughing. He's just maintaining composure. And he's like, you kind of see that, playing out as he played Gusto. That's funny. Going back to Trust Us, the record producer, even he gets buried with his cell phone held to his ear. He was such a shady character that the one dude that had he had a debt that Trust Us owed him. He punched him in the face in the coffin. And he was like, I still want my money. That was really funny. Oh man, that was Wacky D of all people. Oh, Wacky. Yeah, that's right. Oh my god, it was crazy. So we'll talk about the music a little bit later, but the music, I mean, they did so well with the music. Like I said, King of Rock, The Show, they had some classics, and they did Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full when they started hitting it big, and they started showing all the money flying off the shelves and stuff. I was like, that's the perfect song right there. So that was great that they had that in there. Yeah. And there's all these other side characters, just like we had in some of these other movies. The spiritual guy, Baba Ak. Was he remind me of like Preach from Don't Be a Menace, or I think, right? And and Dead Mike becomes a follower of his, where he's all in on the CB4, gangster, but he has that other side where he's like, man, we should be,
followers of the spiritual way, and trying to get back to the motherland and all this stuff. And he kind of gets brainwashed by the Baba Ack guy. It was kind of funny.
Oh man, his solo song.
His solo song. So let's talk about that. Because it reminded me of the Nat X skits that Chris Rock used to do on SNL, right? On Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
Like that like I see like the genesis of it.
Oh man. I remember the first time I watched CB4 and that scene came on, my sister and I laughed so hard. It was just we couldn't stop laughing. Like the scene had gone and they were moved on and we were just still laughing at it. I used to rewind that scene back and just play it over and over again because it was just so funny. Like he was dead, like Dead Mike was dead serious.
That was so good.
And they were like switching the camera angles and he's looking at the camera and he's switching to this angle. You look at the camera. Oh man, too funny.
Yeah, speaking of SNL, and Phil Hartman played the role as a local politician, Virgil Robinson, and I think his son stole the show. His son loved CB4. He had the gear, and he's singing all the lyrics when it comes on the video, and he's doing even the cursing and stuff. And it just, you can see, it just totally ticked off Phil Hartman's character, Virgil Robinson. And Phil Hartman he was so perfect for that role because he has that straight edge quality where he could just go that way. He's like so ultra conservative, like, even to the point of these guys are wearing their baseball caps backwards, like it's so offensive to everybody. In the lyrics, and they're so horrible and it's ruining society. Oh man, it was good.
Yeah, and like that whole scene, like when they were about to do their concert and he was giving them like the rundown of all of the different things that they could, reading them the riot act, what they couldn't do or say during their performance. That whole aspect is also, that they did the same thing to NWA.
Right.
With the F the Police song, like they were threatened that they couldn't perform that song. Mm-hmm. And what did they do? They went out on the stage and they did exactly what CB4 did. They actually were like, you know what? And then dropped it, and what happened? The cops came after them, and they got arrested. So it was like, wow, like you could see the definite parallels of where the storyline was coming from, which was pretty cool. And they put that little comedic twist on it.
It's crazy how far we've come as a society with the explicit lyrics. Remember that was a big thing, is the label on all the CDs and stuff. Like you have to have that explicit lyrics. And NWA, like you said, they defied the orders to police. And of course, 2 Live Crew, which was known for a lot of like sexually explicit lyrics and stuff like that. And then they got in trouble a bunch of times to the point where they had a song F Martinez about the mayor of Miami, I think. And then they came out with Banned in the USA as a parody of Born in the USA because they were banned. But nowadays you have the Cardi B's, you have Ariana Grande, even a bunch of just every other word's a curse and explicit stuff like that. And it gets by.
Funny thing, on my way home today from work, 2 Live Crew pops up on the radio, and I'm like, whoa. It's like, what is going on?
Too hot for the radio. If you guys are interested in a really good series on the birth of Southern hip hop and the 2 Live Crew, the Mogul podcast season 2 is about 2 Live Crew. It's really good. I'll link to it in the show notes, but listeners, if you have listened to that, it's terrific.
Yes. Yeah, I saw a piece on the birth of the hip hop down there in Miami on the Hip Hop Evolution show on Netflix. Also, Luther Campbell, he used to just do a bunch of house parties, aka Luke Skywalker. Bunch of house parties, and all this thing of people on the streets. You get the bikini clad women, and he turned that into a whole act and kind of pushed the envelope.
Yeah, he had that whole Miami bass sound.
Yeah,
it was just that Miami bass sound was crazy. I mean, even in the non-hip hop songs, that bass was just kicking. So he just capitalized on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild times. So back to the CB4, they end up being a big hit. CB4 makes it big, but then like with a lot of groups, they end up having issues, internal feuds and whatnot. They break up, and the part they had these guys, it was funny how they had it with the Dead Mike song. I know I'm black song. Like every other word is I'm black, y'all, I'm black. I'm black because I'm black.
I'm back, I'm back.
That was just hilarious because again, he was a follower of Baba Ak, where it was like, just talk about your blackness, that's it, you know. And then Stabmaster Arson starts his own group, Silent but Deadly. Like, it was bizarre. Yeah.
A bunch of girls dancing and he's just scratching.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man.
And then they have a funny scene towards the end where Chris Rock's character is having a dream sequence about a hip hop retirement home.
Oh, that was really good. That was really funny.
That was funny. It was an older version of Queen Latifah and Flavor Flav. Mm-hmm. And that was like an awakening for him. Like, I don't want to end up like this. I don't want to keep on with the hip hop. But overall, it was funny. It was very funny. I was laughing a lot in this.
There was one very serious line that always stuck out for me when I watched it. It's when Albert was back after he got released and had the party for him at the house and everything, and he went outside to talk to his father. He was outside, washing the truck down, and he's kind of looking at him like, son, what are you doing? Like, I busted my behind to provide for you, and this is what you're going to do. He's like, you're not tough. He's like, you ain't from the street. I'm from the street, and only someone that wasn't would be the one that would try to glorify it. You know what I mean? Like, He's like, why are you even trying to do this? And that line always stuck out for me. He's like, you know what? He's right. That's a nice little gem of knowledge right there. It's like, it's not something to necessarily be glorified, because people that are from there are just really trying to make a way out. So why are you trying to act like you're from there?
Yeah.
Just be you, be authentic.
Right.
It's like, message.
That's the only cameo that wasn't in this movie, was Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Right.
It's right. I mean, Albert was like, I guess like middle class. So he wanted to go into this gangster lifestyle. Otis had that big family. He had like 7 sisters or something, which was Stabmaster Arson.
Yeah.
Right. And I forget what Dead Mike, whose real name was Euripides or Rip. I forget what his situation was, but they all just kind of migrated to this gangster lifestyle because they assumed the identities of the real Gusto and, form that group because they want to be like NWA.
Yep.
There was another kind of funny thing. You remember, like in the late 80s, early 90s, those 976 numbers were a big rage. Like you watch late night TV, it's like call 976, whatever. They did a whole little skit on that, and it was funny. All types of fetishes and whatnot.
It's like whatever you're into, they got a 976 number for it.
Mike was working and behind that one curtain, answering phones, which was a demeaning type job, obviously. But
there was a couple of things that I noticed too that were because Chris Rock likes to pokes fun at himself a lot, and I noticed that he referenced a couple of other movies that characters that he's played. There's the one part where he's I guess it was after that conversation with his dad, and he's kind of thinking about things and trying to figure out what's going on, and it shows him like he's smoking, and it kind of shows the part from New Jack City when he was playing Pookie, a crack addict, and he's like, crack pipe, he's like, ooh, like he's gonna smoke, and I'm like, hey, that's a parody of New Jack City. And then like and then at the end of the movie, there's like the whole end credit scene that references "I'm gonna get you, sucker," and I'm like, oh, look at that, he's choking on himself again. But I was like, wow, that was pretty funny how he threw those in there.
That's a good pickup. Yeah, that went over my head. That was good.
I love that last scene.
Yeah. Jefferson, you got change for 100?
I just watched that clip again today.
There's some things that, and I always like to ask, what are some of the things that we disliked or questioned? When I referenced like the 976, Mike was working at one, it was like 976 gays. So that was kind of demeaning. Again, it's a homophobic theme that we see from time to time in a lot of these movies because, people were not as open-minded back then. So that was kind of like a little bit cringeworthy where it's like, okay.
On that same kind of note, near the end, at the end of The Sting, there's this part where Albert and Otis almost kiss.
Oh,
which
yeah.
seemed like gratuitous, not from like the gay part of it, but like this almost wasn't necessary in the movie.
Yeah.
And so it seemed to land weird with me, but on that same kind of homophobic line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the end was a little bit too predictable too. Like it was so obvious that Albert, or Chris Rock's character, was going to show up when he, Gusto, Charlie Murphy, was trying to get with Sissy. I knew exactly. You could tell exactly what was going to happen. I was like, all right, I get it. It worked, but it was a little bit too predictable for my liking.
Yeah.
Almost ran out of ideas right at the end.
Yeah, they put everything up front, top loaded it. Oh, we got to wrap it up. Oh, shoot, what do we want to do?
Yeah.
Put a bow on it.
Yeah, right. I know we talked about the music, so I know we all said we kind of enjoyed the music. Did either of you guys own the soundtrack to the movie?
No, I never owned the soundtrack. It was funny though, because a lot of the music that was in it, it was like music that I own, and I know that there were some songs that were made specifically for the movie, but the songs that really cracked me up, besides the classics. Plus, it's always great to hear the classics, but like the original songs that they performed, that which were parodies, were even hilarious. Like, wow, like I would listen to this and just crack up the whole time through the whole song. They were done like actual songs,
I didn't have the soundtrack, and I wish I had seen this movie a long time ago, and I would have maybe owned the soundtrack to have the parody songs on there.
Yeah, that was good. It's almost like they could have made a whole parody album and it would have been a hit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They put a lot of effort into it. Could this movie be made today? What do you guys think?
Part of me is saying it could be, but just off of the fact that there's so many, well, not necessarily now, but there was a whole string of spoof movies that were coming out at one time. And I think that it would have, could have easily came out there and then, but like now, it's kind of died down a little bit. You don't necessarily see them as much. I don't know if there's like a lack of demand for them. So I don't know if they would even put effort into it. But I mean, if they tried it, I would watch it. I would give it a few minutes just to see where it went. And, if it didn't, grab my attention, then I would flip away from it. But I'd give it a shot.
Yeah, I struggle with this too. Not because it couldn't be made today, but like I wouldn't know what they would parody. Like,
right?
There's nothing like gangster rap now. I don't even know what kind of gangster rap is out now. And so what sort of genre is ripe for parody? I don't know. Trap? I have no idea. Is it mumblecore? I don't really know.
Right. It's like even like the songs now are parodies of hip hop. It's like, what?
It's like I don't think that you could do this exact same formula today. I don't think it would work, but you could take bits and pieces of it. You could parody something else, like we mentioned in Don't Be a Menace. But I do like the idea of the mockumentary, so to speak. Like we're saying, I like that idea, and I think Sacha Baron Cohen has perfected that art almost, where it's like you don't know if it's he's kind of like documenting things, but he's going down these different avenues that uncovering different things, and some of it's real, some of it's like premeditated. So yeah, I guess you can take bits and pieces of it and piece something together. So I guess we want to give it our overall rating. We normally do, unless you guys have anything else to add here.
I do have one thing. We should
Go ahead.
mention Tamara Davis. This was her first feature film, which is pretty great as your first film. And her next film was Billy Madison, my favorite Adam Sandler movie of that era.
That was great.
And she was a music video director before she did feature films, and she did Wild Thing by Tone Loc. Pretty great.
Nice.
And some of my favorites from Sonic Youth and Luscious Jackson. She was married to Mike D for a while, and they're separated now, but she did Beastie Boys videos. So already had some pretty good credits to her name. And then, became this film director. So this was her first movie. Pretty good start.
yeah, nice jump off point. Yeah.
That's a great resume there. Awesome. So overall, Boogie, what do you say? Bring that funky flick back?
Bring that funky flick back?
Or leave it in the vault?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna bring the funky flick back just off the fact that I love comedies, and like I love the way this was formatted. That whole fake documentary format, it worked for me, and the references, just knowing like those references that they were pointing at, it made me laugh so much that like I said, I haven't watched this in years. I don't remember the last time I watched it before, setting up for this episode. But prior to that, I've watched it like I don't know how many times. So yeah, I definitely will bring it back.
Yeah. What do you think, Dino? Right?
I'm definitely bringing this funky flick back. It's so funny. It's got so many things weaved into it. It's worth preserving.
Yeah, I agree. Bring that funky flick back. The piece of it that and you mentioned was funny. Also, the mockumentary. So much of it it's a parody because they're sitting in the LA traffic for so long. Yeah. He gets off the ramp and the real Gus is like, "Oh, forget that. I am not going in that mess." Yes. and that's how Chris Ellie's character can talk so long to Chris Rock's character because they're just sitting in traffic and he's recounting the whole story of CB4. So that was funny in and of itself, is that they're making light of the LA traffic being so bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bring that funky flick back.
Oh, I just realized something I forgot to talk about. The biscuits.
I did write that down. I forgot to mention that too.
Oh my goodness, the biscuits, man. Those things were huge. That's all. Like, can you imagine like how much water or juice or something you have to drink to wash down? It's like a giant sized Popeye's biscuit.
They actually called big ass biscuits.
Big ass biscuits. Yes. Put a big slab of butter on the top. Oh man, too many things to laugh at.
It was good. That movie was good. There was a pizza place in Philly called Big Ass Pizza or Big Ass Slices, I think, and it was like a donkey was their logo. And these slices, yeah. You've been there, right? That slice of pizza is like almost a quarter of a pie or a third of a pie. Yeah.
Hip Hop Movie Club is produced by your HHMCs, JB, Boogie, and Dino Wright. Theme music by Boogie. Special thanks to Susan Berger, Towanda Edwards, and Allison Yaris. Hit us up at hiphopmovieclub@gmail.com or on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook at Hip Hop Movie Club. In 2 weeks, we'll discuss Do the Right Thing.
And remember, don't hate, incorporate.